I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into a high-stakes crime thriller with one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite authors. His name is Carlo Armenise, and he has penned a wonderful book. It is called Sam Razor, Private Investigator. His second case, The Backcourt Blackmailer. This gripping detective novel follows private investigator Sam Razor as he races against time to uncover a blackmailer threatening to expose an NBA star's alleged drug use, unless the team's owner pays a staggering $75 million. With cartel involvement, a high-pressure investigation, and a sharp-witted detective at the center, The Backcourt Blackmailer is a must-read for fans of mystery, suspense, and action-packed crime fiction. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Authors Tranquility Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below the interview. Carlo, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Same here. Always look forward to talking to you. And you did such a good job of introducing the book. I want to read it myself.
Good. That means my work here is done today. It is a great book, folks. And every time I'm doing a Sam Razor interview, I want to talk like a tough guy, like Humphrey Bogart. Give me another shot of morphine. The first one felt so good, I think I'll take 6 more. So the books are great. They're thrilling and they're also humorous. And I think that was the appeal of Raymond Chandler in his books when he was crafting Philip Marlowe, I believe his detective was that they were not only gripping stories, but you were excited to hear the narrative itself, the way Philip thought of things, the same way Sam perceives things. It's kind of like a gritty, honesty, humorous look at the world. Is that your intention when you're writing it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The first case, the introduction, was just to bring Sam to life
Yep.
and have him solve the case and divulge some of his capabilities, his foibles, that kind of thing. The second case, the intention was to have a great mystery, but also to bring out the sensitive human side of Sam, and to bring out the comedy in Sam as well, because I think that's a piece that really attracts attention. People read it because of the case. They come back and linger with it because of the humor and the sensitivity of the character. Because in this case, he actually does some things that you wouldn't expect that he would do. Which would be to find love and excitement and that kind of stuff. So while he's trying to solve a case within a really short period of time. So that was always the intention.
Yeah, and you succeeded. That was your goal. You've certainly succeeded. So the first book is The Case of the Blonde with the Bad Nose Job, which is such a great title. I love it. And at the end of the book, we leave Sam. He is in a hospital bed. He's surrounded by what appears to be the new love of his life, Mary. He's doping himself with morphine as much as he can get just for kicks and making a little commentary as he goes along. And he swears off big cases. He's going back to divorce work, people throwing frying pans at each other, where it's
Right,
safer than,
right.
the high stakes crimes that we have coming up in the next chapter. So tell us how Sam gets sucked back into it.
Well, so his one of his best friends, as he did some work for, his best friend hired him to find out if his wife was cheating on him,
Mhm.
because the agreement they had is if they were cheating on one another, then the guilty party would lose whatever their estate value was
Hmm.
at the end. So Sam solved the case for his friend, which meant the wife got less or nothing in the estate settlement.
Mhm.
So and one of the clients of the friend happened to be the owner of this NBA team in LA. So when the NBA team owner called him and said that he had this situation and he needed somebody to come in and help him solve it. So the friend, he recommended Sam to the owner. And that's how Sam got pulled into it. And he wasn't going to take it because he realized that at the end of the day, they give him only a week's time to find a blackmailer that was going to cost $50 million, $75 million if he didn't solve it. And he only had a week. He wasn't going to take it. But then he decided, you know what? I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because my friend recommended me, and he's a huge fan of the Tigers. He grew
Okay.
up with the Tigers, him and his father and his brother. So when he had an opportunity to actually work with the one professional basketball team that he adored, and now of course he's different. It's different too because he's living in L.A. In his
Mhm.
first case, he wasn't living in L.A. He was living in Vegas, and now he's living in L.A. So he figured, oh, what the hell? I'm going to take it up, and it'll be, if nothing else. And he got an incredible deal from the owner. He was going to get $10,000 a day plus expenses, but he was also going to get $100,000 if he cracked it. And so he says, you know what? Let's do it. And that's how he got pulled back in.
LA is a great backdrop because that's the backdrop of all classic detective stories, really. That's where Sam Spade was, Philip Marlowe, and a bunch of others. So I think I like LA as a setting. Is basketball something you know a lot about that you were able to write this?
Do I know a lot about? I love to watch it. My
Okay,
favorite team is not the LA team. It's the Boston team. But I always watch the good games. So I've
right.
got a real understanding because I just love it.
Yeah,
But as far as anything else, I wanted Sam to get set up by the owner, and that's how the information about all the players and the teams come out. Is from the owner giving Sam information to get him ready for the case. Uh, it was a labor of love, though, to write it because I do love basketball, and I thought this
hmm
would be something that would appeal to a larger audience. And
hmm
originally, I thought it would be more of an appeal to male readers, but I think it has a broad appeal to both females and males.
yeah.
And because there's a lot of women that are into basketball, into professional sports. So it was really something that I desired to really get into.
Yeah.
And then with the information you got from the owner, I was able to dig deep into the individual cast members. And there are a lot of them in this particular story, which was the one of the most difficult things about it, because I had to keep those people separate and distinctive as I went through the process, and keep the reader guessing because
Mm.
you never really know who is the blackmailer, because there's so
Exactly.
many potential blackmailers in the overall story. So
Yeah, and I think basketball now, just like football, extends well beyond sports. It's
right,
the new celebrity. You know,
right,
these guys are looked to for fashion. I mean, you got so many more people watching the NFL nowadays because of Taylor Swift and all of that stuff.
right,
And I think the
exactly.
same is true with basketball. It appeals to people interested in the hip hop culture and beyond.
Yes.
So I think it was a wise move, as indeed. Are you influenced by books of this genre or films of this genre more?
Films.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
And
Do you, I can tell you this, I watch hard-boiled detective films probably 2 or 3 times a week. You
right.
know, I'll watch Where the Sidewalk Ends, Double Indemnity, The Lady in the Lake, you name it, I watch it. It's absolutely my favorite genre, which is why we're always able to talk so well when we talk about these stories.
Well, it seems like nowadays, even if you look at streaming television,
Yeah.
I mean, every streaming network has got a detective.
Yeah.
They've got a series of people solving cases. So, Humphrey Bogart was a favorite of mine just
Mhm.
because of his presentation and his style.
You're
Uh,
right.
and so, but I wanted Sam to be somewhat different. I wanted him to have a little style, but also to be kind of, you always wonder if he can really solve it.
hmm
That's what I wanted the reader to walk away with. Can he really solve this? I mean, he could be over his head, and he even says that himself at one place where he thinks, "Well, I might be over my head to try to
Right.
get this done in a week's time." So it's that combination of interest in detective work and solving cases, and also just the attention that detective series and films are getting now.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. And even in across the ocean over in the on the other side of the pond, as they say, so many BBC shows that deal with procedurals and detective work. People are interested in it, and it's usually built around a great character like Sam Razor, who is a true American
Right.
original.
Right.
The book is paced over the course of that one week as well. It's kind of in real time, right?
Yes. Right.
That
Yeah.
kind of adds to the drama and the tension, don't you think?
Well, and yes, that's the reason I did it, is because he could have been, he could have gone on forever. I mean, I could have kept it going and going and going, but I wanted the tension to be about the fact that he had a limited time to solve it.
Mm.
And so that developed the interest that the reader had in just kind of figuring out how he was going to do it and how he was going to discern who the blackmailer was. And it's that tension, I think, that sets the nice pace for the book. It's a short book. It's a short
Yeah.
case. But Sam Razor's cases are never going to be hugely long
Right.
because at the end of the day, I want the twists and the turns and the payoffs to kind of be condensed. So as you're reading it, you kind of just stay excited to know what's going to happen next. And then, of course, it has a payoff at the end. So
Yeah.
that was the intention.
Yeah, exactly. I also loved the beginning of your book. You explained how Sam Razor came to be. His name is really Sam Langello or something like
Yeah,
that, or yeah.
he changed his well, he changed his name in the first case. He
Yes.
had the last name in the first case because he just all of the great detectives, it seemed like, were either Italian or they had some kind of European involvement. So
Yeah.
he figures, what the hell, Razor was going to make it, because you'd remember Razor.
Yeah.
You wouldn't remember Langello. That wouldn't have it. So that was the birth of Sam Razor. And then I just fell in love with the name. I
Yep.
just fell in love with the name. I mean, I can imagine, I'm right in the beginning of his third case right now. And I can put him into any kind of situation I want. Now, especially because in this case, he actually gets married.
Mm,
So now he's got an accomplice to work
exactly.
with him. And that was something else I wanted. And the comedy was important for me in this particular case. I wanted people to walk away and say, boy, that was funny.
Yeah.
And he said something off the top of his head that you just wouldn't have expected, but it was consistent with what I wanted his character to become.
Yeah.
And of course he did. Different title. Blonde with a Bad Nose Job is kind of inspires imagination with
Right.
people. They want to know about it. Backcourt Blackmailer does the same thing, but not quite as obviously.
Mm,
And it's about blackmail. Blackmail is a big hot topic in a
yeah.
lot of the films and a lot of the television drama. So,
Speaking of films and television dramas, if this was to be turned into, or if this were to be turned into a film or a TV series, who would you cast as Sam? I
you know
mean, of
what?
course, I'm your first choice,
Well, yeah, of
but
course.
beyond me.
That's a question that I've grappled with uh, all the way through the second case. I kept trying to think of who would be the perfect character, because he had that combination of being a little bit goofy, but
Right.
also then really insightful, and comedic. And to
This
be
just
honest
sounded
with
more and
you,
more like me all the time.
I'm telling you
A
what, I
little
said that
serious, a
before.
little bit of a goofball.
All you have to do is put up the financing. We're in good shape.
Exactly. Exactly. That'd
So
be great.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I haven't started trying to figure it out because I'm more interested in just continuing the evolution of the character. And I
Yeah.
think eventually it'll come out, who I think it is. I mean, you could think of people like Danny DeVito,
Right.
but he's not sexy. I'm
Right.
he has
Right.
a little bit of sexiness to him.
Right.
And some of the other leading men are just too leading man, you know,
Yeah.
even though they've played detectives and they've done some things. Uh, so I don't know.
I think we need to find a young David Jansen
Yes.
or a young Darren McGavin, if you remember him as Kolchak.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
which was a great series investigating the paranormal. He was the ghost hunter or something like that. I forget what he was, some kind of hunter. But yeah, the Night Stalker, that was him. But yeah, so somebody who can bring comedic elements to it as well, because that's the beauty of this book is that he's thinking seriously about the case, but interjecting jokes simultaneously.
Right. And that,
Yeah.
because again, that adds depth, I think, to a character, and also adds the kind of reasons why you like him,
Yeah.
because you have to walk away liking Sam.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just, it could be any case doing anything. So you got to like him, and you got to like what he's going through. His reactions and his dialogue shouldn't be so apparent that you can just guess it.
Right.
He's going to say some things that you're just not aware of. You're not ready for.
Yeah.
And I was just blessed enough to be able to come up with those kinds of things when I looked at this particular case. And there's some interesting side characters in it too. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you absolutely want to develop a franchise where people are looking forward to seeing Sam Razor. It almost doesn't matter what story he's in as long as he's in it, you know?
that's right.
You
And
know.
that's what I really wanted to develop with this whole series was people reading the books and then anticipating the next case.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I can't wait for the next Sam Razor case to come out. Now it takes time, which is one of the challenges of the writer. I mean, for me, it takes time to get enough people to read it and see it and
Yeah.
know it's there. The reactions have all been good, but I need more of an audience, a much broader
Right.
audience. So that's what I'm
Exactly.
trying to do now, and that's where your show is just so helpful, getting more and more people to see it and understand it and recognize it and want to read it.
Exactly. And hear the story that they're like, yeah, I'd love to see that. I love that movie. And that's why I've been making a lot of popular culture references because people who are fans of like Chinatown and those type of
Yes.
movies will love
Yeah.
this because it's the wisecracking private eye who is, my favorite type of hero, for sure. Are you thinking about a third adventure for Sam? You must be toiling with something.
Yeah, no, I've actually started the
Mhm.
third case. It's a case about um, it's called the misaligned chiropractor,
Mhm.
and it's about so Sam. It opens with Sam having back problems. He
Right.
just came back from his honeymoon. He's back in L.A. and he screwed up his back. He says he's had back problems forever, but Sam's position was, I tell people it's because I got to play in football. Well, he never played
Right.
football, but it just makes him sound so much more macho. So he goes to the chiropractor, this chiropractor that he knows, and of course, in going to the chiropractor, he gets in through conversation with the chiropractor, gets involved with the chiropractor having issues in his marriage.
Mm.
So it's back to one of those cases again. It's more usual for Sam where he's chasing cheaters and that kind of thing. But it's going to have a whole bunch of different twists in it and turns. And so I've started, uh,
Gotcha.
but it's
Sounds good. You're going
saying,
to keep this one in LA also?
yeah, well, yeah, I haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
It's going to start out in LA, but I'll see,
Yeah.
where it goes. I mean, um, that's the beauty of Sam. He can go wherever I want him to,
Sure.
really.
Wherever the case takes him, he can go.
And I want to bring his wife into it this time so that he has a sidekick,
Yeah.
uh, because
Yeah.
she's also the brains of the outfit to some degree,
Right.
like in most relationships, I guess.
Exactly. Well, that has shades of The Thin Man. That series
Yes.
was,
Yeah.
Nick and Nora were both detectives, and she was a smart one, and he was not quite as smart. Like you said, like all of us men are when we have a wife, we suddenly find out we're not the smartest person in the room anymore. So we have to live with that. That's
Yeah. Well,
awesome. Well, I'm glad you got a third book coming because I think fans of it will appreciate that. And I also am very big in believing in produce something, put it out there, get it discovered the best you can, and then produce more stuff.
right.
Keep on going with the story. That was one of the advice I heard recently from a very successful creator who said, you make a film, great. Promote it, perfect. But then go make your next film. The same thing's true with a book. Keep on
Right.
putting the work out there. That way you have, 6 books to show, a Hollywood producer if they ever come to you and say, hey, you got more of this Sam Razor stuff.
Well, yeah. And that's an interesting observation because what I've done is with all of my books, I've started the second Footsteps in the Dark,
Hmm.
my second set of 8 short stories for Footsteps. I've started the second case of the of Deceitful Intentions
Hmm.
about the young girl and solving the mystery. And now I'm starting the third case of Sam Razor because I also think that if you've got that process, the reader will read them both. They'll go back and read the first one if they haven't read the second one,
Hmm.
but then they'll anticipate the next case. And
Right.
that just kind of, brings into the positioning of people that already have an intention to buy it
Yep.
and want to read it. So I'm trying to be consistent that way, even though the topics and stories are completely different. But, you know, I think that's the right way to do it. So,
Absolutely. What is it like for you writing across genres like that, going from, dramatic, hard-boiled detective comedic to Footsteps in the Dark, which is a dark collection of horror stories?
well, I mean, it depends on how the ideas flow. I happen to like to develop short stories. I happen to like to develop them. And I like the idea of having to come up with ideas for a Footsteps in the Dark, because to keep that positioning moving and flowing, I understand already the kind of story I have to have that works into that, more of a Twilight Zone-ish kind of
Hmm.
position. So I don't have any problem. And because I've already written the first book, that makes it easy, interesting and easy for me to go on to the second, because I know where it went the first time, and now I can take it either in that direction or a different direction. And I've got in Deceitful Intentions, I've got a couple of great characters too. And so now what's going to happen? Things that you thought were going to happen because of the first story now don't happen, or
Hmm.
different things happen. So it automatically sets up, a nice. So I don't have any real problem. I mean, I just like to write. So
Yeah,
I sit back and say, what can I write now? What's
exactly.
now? It's more a problem with time. How much
Yeah.
time it takes and how much dedication it takes. And I've been blessed enough to get good feedback from people like yourself,
Hmm.
which has been helpful, and with reviews of my
Hmm.
stuff. So if I guess if I got a lot of reviews that says, "What the hell are you doing? Boy, that sucks," I suppose
Yeah,
I'd give it up, and
right.
TV repair. Uh, but it hasn't happened that way. So
Yeah. Exactly. And also, you got to, even if you got bad reviews, you have to thrive on it. I mean, what they said about Fred Astaire was he can't sing, he can't act, he can dance a little. That was one of the first casting directors who had him audition. So you got to, even in the spite of headwinds, you got to keep on going. That's for sure. The second Footsteps in the Dark, is it already ready, or you still working on it?
it's seven of the stories are done, and I'm finishing up two others, because I've come across a couple of ideas for those stories that I think are more interesting, and that they're
Mhm.
all interesting, but this is a little deeper than just, it's true stories. There's one of them that's a true short story because of a scientist that I met when I was working in retail, who
Mhm.
was a professor of immunology, and he believed that the only real true uh, cure for disease and for cancer was through the body's own immune system.
Hmm.
So he told me a story that happened to him specifically. And so that's one of the short stories I'm writing. It's called The Cure,
Hmm.
and it's about the cure for cancer. And then I'm writing one about there's a profession out there that I didn't know about. It's a profession of scientists that actually go to hospice and go to places where people are dying,
Mhm.
and they actually work with the people to understand what they're feeling about death and to try to take them through. And he meets a young woman who's dying, and he falls in love with her.
Mhm.
But he understands that she's got a very limited life left.
Mhm.
So it's about how it's called the soul stealer, how he
Mhm.
captures her soul so that he and she can be together in the afterlife. So
Very
those
cool. Very cool. I mean, both those stories sound amazing to me. The Soul Stealer and also The Cure, because I tend to believe the same thing. The only way we're going to beat disease is if we can get our bodies to beat
that's
the
right.
diseases. So beefing up our immune system, somehow altering our DNA. We already altered our RNA with the COVID-19 shots, and they say that's promising for cancer, and we'll see. But I think what's fascinating about them is that they're taking real life theories and ideas and possibilities and making them into stories.
And religion in one of the other stories is about two brothers. One believes in God and one doesn't.
Mhm.
And so they are constantly going at each other about the existence of God. And so that story really, I wanted to talk about religion in some ways, but not get too deep into it, because that's kind of the adversity that's going on. There's the people that believe in God, and in Jesus and people who don't.
Yeah.
So this was two brothers in the same family going through the same thing. And it was kind of fun to decide how that was going to work out, who
Hmm.
at the end was going to win when it was all said and done. And that just gets into my own personal preference. But that's a great one. And
Yeah.
then there's another serial killer short story that is in there because that's the genre of footsteps too, is to have those stories. So I
Hmm.
think it's a collection that will do real well. And again, that franchise has got a lot of readers
Hmm.
already. Footsteps in the Dark, so it's one of those again that I think will attract some attention.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
trying to work with Authors Tranquility to try to get some interviews with producers to try to pitch my books too, because I think
Yeah.
that's where I'd like it to end up.
Yeah. Well, of
You know,
course, that'd be like, creating the book is wonderful. If it becomes a bestseller, that's great. If it
yeah.
becomes a movie and seeing it, on the big screen or a TV series, I mean, just watching your work brought to life is, I think, every artist's dream. You
Yeah,
want
and
it.
and that's important because it was never about the money or any of that. I don't Writing books is a labor of love for me. The
Mm.
challenge is that finding people that will read the books,
Right.
you know, and at the end of the day, use whatever leverage you have to get that going. So now I'm trying to look back and say, well, because in our conversations in the past and also in others, Footsteps will make an interesting series
Yeah.
or an interesting movie. So, okay, well, now I'm going to go out and see if I can get somebody interested to do it.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. It's funny, we're all built around the New York Times bestseller list.
yeah,
If you read any book on the bestseller list, there's a good chance you're not going to be very impressed.
you know
It's
what? I think the
amazing.
same thing.
Yeah.
I don't like, when I read some of these people that they've talked about as being such great, authors, and their books are so phenomenal. I kind of walk away and go, well, and it's the same way with movies.
Yeah.
It's the same way with TV. You'll see a movie that got really great 18 awards and all this other stuff. You'll go to see the movie, and I walk out usually because it's so bad.
Yeah.
The characters aren't developed, the plot line's not interesting. So I think mediocrity kind of goes across the board, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So
I mean, I
I don't
think
want to,
particularly when it comes to mainstream, like the
yeah,
big pictures aren't as interesting as the little pictures, and the big books in many cases aren't as interesting as the little books. I
right,
mean, that's the thing. So, like you said, finding that audience for the smaller book, for the undiscovered author, for somebody
right,
who's not Mary Higgins Clark or James Patterson or whatever, it's a tough nut to crack, but that's what every artist has to do is to find his or her audience, right?
right, right, right. So
Wonderful.
and hopefully, and this journey that I'm on of writing stories, because I look at myself as a storyteller as opposed to just an author, and
Hmm.
I'm a storyteller. And this journey that I'm on, as I see the reactions I get from it, just invigorates me to keep doing it, and we'll see where it goes at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I would even think about collaborating with people at a film school, like one of the university film schools,
That's a good idea.
and having them do it, as like a class project or something. Because I've worked on little films with, university, school film departments, and they've been great. Some people that's where your next, big director is coming from. So something to do, something to think about, and you
That's a
put
good
produce a
idea.
short with some guys at the, University of Las Vegas Graduate Film School, whatever you have out there. You never know. You never know, and you'd have fun doing it, regardless,
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. No, that's a great idea. I
Yeah.
think, I'll see how it goes over this next few weeks. My goal is to have two more books out by the end of this year,
Great.
uh, and I'm pretty close. So then I'm going to have to sit back and say, how many more books do I need? I mean,
Right.
it's exciting to write, but sometimes it's kind of like, okay, well, now I want to make more out of the ones that I already have,
Right.
opposed to just continuing to add more information. Because my
Right.
website, carloarmenise.com, it's got all my books on it. And the good news is that all my books have trailers uh,
Hmm.
that really talk about the stories and things. So I'm pretty pleased with that. So it's just trying to get visibility I think that's what it always is
Yeah.
visibility.
Exactly, exactly. In an ever crowded marketplace, too. Well, you've done the first job of this, which is to create outstanding work. It's why you're here today. And our viewers, go out and get this book. It's great. It's Sam Razor's second case. The name of the book, Sam Razor, Private Investigator, his second case, The Backcourt Blackmailer. This gripping detective novel follows private investigator Sam Razor as he races against time to uncover a blackmailer threatening to expose an NBA star's alleged drug use unless the team's owner pays a staggering $75 million. With cartel involvement, a high pressure investigation, and a sharp witted detective at the center of it all, The Backcourt Blackmailer is a must read for fans of mystery, suspense, and action packed crime fiction. Carlo, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
You know what I have to say that my time with you has always been what I've looked forward to. I appreciate you. I respect you. I really look forward to. I love your style
Thank you.
and how you actually, get into the stories and the questions you ask. And I really appreciate it. And I always look forward to being on your show. So, thank you for having me again.
I appreciate that, Carlo. And right back at you. Love having you on the show. It's always insightful, always entertaining, and always interesting. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.